Welcome back to Jack of All Trades, a guidance channel for young men. We're going to start today with personal responsibility. This is the first real lesson that we're going to do, and the reason we're working on personal responsibility is that is one of the most important things for anyone to learn, especially for a young man to learn. So, Galatians chapter 6, verse 5, for each will have to bear his own load. And that's kind of what this whole thing boils down to, is you have a load, you're going to have to carry it. No one else will carry it for you, not your parents, nobody else. And the sooner you learn that, the better off you will be. So we're going to go through some stuff today, everything centering around the idea of personal responsibility. So the main thing here is you're responsible for everything. Your emotions, your actions, your reactions, what you do, how you feel, how you respond to situations, every single thing, you are responsible for it. Only you. No one else. Once you're old enough to start making your own decisions and understand the impact of those decisions, which is younger than you might think, you have to start taking responsibility. So if you're old enough to watch this and pay attention, then you're old enough to start taking responsibility for your actions. You have to control yourself, you have to control your actions, you have to control your reactions, and you have to be responsible. You are responsible for your life. No one else is going to do it for you. Your parents can only help you for so long, and eventually you're going to be on your own, and you're going to have to be able to handle situations and take responsibility for how you act. A big thing of this is not having the victim mindset. Steve Maraboli says the victim mindset dilutes the human potential. By not accepting personal responsibility for our circumstances, we greatly reduce our power to change them. I think that's a pretty powerful quote, and I think we can look at that quote and look at the inverse. It says, by not accepting personal responsibility for our circumstances, we greatly reduce our power to change them. So by accepting personal responsibility for our circumstances, then we have the power to change those circumstances. And that's certainly true. And I think we'll get to that point as we continue through here. Wayne Dyer said, everything you do is based on the choices you make. It's not your parents, your past relationships, your job, the economy, the weather, an argument, or your age that is to blame. You and only you are responsible for every decision and choice you make, period. And I think sometimes when we talk personal responsibility, people get confused with the concept, saying, well, how am I supposed to be responsible for everything in my life when things have happened to me that weren't because of a decision that I made, right? So it could be anything. It could be somebody being mean to you. It could be you're walking down the street and just something terrible happens. It could be your health. It could be your parents' health. There's a million things that could happen to you that didn't happen to you because of a choice you made. It's something that happened to you. So you obviously cannot control that. You are not responsible for the thing that happened. What you are responsible for is how you respond. You are responsible for how you respond to what happened to you, for how you react, for your emotions. And it doesn't mean you can't have emotions. You're going to have emotions. You're going to have anger and fear and frustration and all that. You absolutely are. But you are responsible for recognizing that emotion, acknowledging it, and then still acting appropriately. So getting angry and having an outburst because something terrible happened, because somebody said something you didn't like, not acceptable, okay? You are responsible for your actions, and things are going to happen to you that you can't control, and that happens to everybody. Every single person, the billions of people on this planet, that's going to happen to every single one of them. Every single one's going to have things happen in their life that they didn't bring onto themselves, and you get a choice. You can, respond positively. You can decide that you want to control this situation, that you're going to take responsibility. Moving forward from that event, boom, you have responsibility moving forward. And if you don't do that, and if you don't accept responsibility, you'll find yourself in a negative place. And you ultimately are the sum of your decisions in life. And so if you make good decisions and you stack good decision on good decision on good decision, well, then you're going to be in a good place. And it's really easy to continue that streak once you're in that pattern. But if you're good and then bad and then good decision and bad decision, well, you're taking a step forward and a step back and a step forward and a step back, and you never really get anywhere. And you're just kind of fickle, and you probably don't even really know who you are, and how you respond depends on the situation. And if you make a lot of bad decisions, it's really hard to turn that around. It doesn't mean it can't be done. It 100% can be done. I'm here to tell you, as somebody who did that and has been there, that it can be done. I'm not approaching this from a situation where I've always made the right decisions. But you can turn it around, and you can decide to make the right decision at any time. You can be in the middle of making the wrong decision. Something can happen, and you can lose your temper and think about this or think about personal responsibility, and you can stop right then at any second and make the right decision. And every time you make a right decision, it gets easier. It gets easier and easier and easier. Okay, it's kind of like fitness or a diet. If I'm eating poorly eating poorly for years and years and years and years and years, and then I decide, hey, I'm going to eat healthy now. That's hard. That's really hard. It doesn't mean it can't be done, because 100% can be done. But it's difficult. But if I'm eating healthy, and I'm eating healthy, and I'm eating healthy, and I'm eating healthy, it's easy. It's easy to continue doing what I'm already doing. It's easy to continue to eat healthy. And so that's why I'm hoping young men are going to watch this and decide to start making the right choices, decide to be responsible for how they act and how they react and how they respond to situations. And if you can do that, and you can start doing it and start implementing it, it won't be easy. And you'll fail 100%. Every single person that's ever tried to do this has been unsuccessful. What if you start out and you're successful a couple times, and then half the time, and then maybe 80% of the time? If you're successful doing this 80% of the time, you're kicking butt, and you should be proud of yourself. And I think your life will be better for it. You'll be happier. You won't have that victim mindset. You'll feel a lot better about yourself, and you will have control of your life instead of letting life just happen to you. Eleanor Roosevelt said, "In the long run, we shape our lives, and we shape ourselves. The process never ends until we die." And the choices we make are ultimately our own responsibility. And that's a great, I think it's a wonderful quote. It shows that, hey, this should start when you're young, but it never ends. I'm 35. I still have to be responsible, and I still fail. I still fail sometimes, and I don't control how I react to a situation, or I don't take that personal responsibility, and I have to catch myself or try to and correct that. And so that's something that, it's going to be a lifelong struggle, but it's a struggle that's worth it. Anything worth doing is going to be difficult. This will be difficult. It's 100% worth doing. If you are not doing this, then you are letting life happen to you, and you are letting life control. You're letting situations. Maybe you're letting a person who's treating you poorly control how you respond, control your reactions, and drive your life. You should never let somebody else control your reactions or your emotions. You are responsible for your emotions, and you control your life. But to do that, you have to take personal responsibility. It's the only way you can do it. So again, just to reiterate, because I think when we talk personal responsibility, people, and hey, you're responsible for your life and you're responsible for everything that happens to you, you may not be responsible for the event, right? Anything could happen. There's a million things. You can get hit by a car walking down the street, on the sidewalk. You're not at fault at all. But you're responsible for what happens moving forward. Are you going to be depressed and sad and not recover and angry and mean? And there are people that do that. And there's people who look at it positively. There's people who decide, hey, you know what? That was awful. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to get through this, and I can, and I'm strong, and I'm going to be positive. And being positive doesn't mean, walking around with a smile on your face like an idiot all the time. It just means looking at things in a positive manner. And even if something's terrible, it can be terrible and make you sad and angry and frustrated and all that. But you can still say, you know what? I'm going to get through this, and I'm going to continue to accept responsibility for what I do moving forward and how I respond to this. And remember this, when you are tempted to feel like a victim, and I think everybody goes through that, right? Like, why me? Why did this happen to me? Why did I have to be the guy that this happened to? Get out of that mentality, take responsibility for your life, and get away from that. Move away from that, okay? You can choose to wallow in self-pity, but it was not going to get you anywhere. You take that responsibility, you move forward. I think you will find you have so much power over your life. I think you'll be shocked about it, and it can have such a positive impact on your life. We got another quote here by Lori Myers. The power behind taking responsibility for your actions lies in putting an end to negative thought patterns. You no longer dwell on what went wrong or focus on whom you are going to blame. You don't waste time building roadblocks to your success. Instead, you are set free and can now focus on succeeding. And that's so true. And that's that kind of victim mentality we're trying to get you away from. That's the taking responsibility for how you respond, your actions and reactions and emotions, all of it. You are responsible for all of it. And if you take responsibility for that, I think you'll see you have so much power. You're free now. You can do anything. I mean, you really can't, because nobody can hold you down. Nobody can hold you back. People can say something negative to you or about you, and you get to decide, that doesn't bother me. I'm not going to let that weigh me down. I'm not going to let that affect my day and ruin my day. And once you realize you have that power, that you have that ability to shrug that off and really truly move on and forget it and not even respond to it or acknowledge, hey, that really makes me angry and frustrated, and acknowledge those emotions, but not act on them, and choose to, you know what, that really frustrates me and I don't like that, but that's okay, because I'm going to take responsibility for how I respond, and I'm going to keep doing what I know I need to do to be successful. And that's unbelievably powerful, and you will go so far in life if you can really grasp that concept. So here's another great quote by Alana Hunt. It's only when you take responsibility for your life that you discover how powerful you truly are. And that's what we just talked about. If you take responsibility, I think you'll be shocked if you can really internalize this concept, how truly powerful you really are and how much you can get done and what you can do in life. And I think you really can make something of yourself, because you never get mired down in this woe is me. And you don't have to do that. You just don't have to. And we've all known people, hopefully, if you haven't, you will. You'll know people that something terrible happens to them or to somebody they love, and they just respond in the most amazing way. They're still positive, and it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt them. It doesn't mean it doesn't affect them. We have some really good family friends, and they just found out that their teenage son, has cancer. They're so positive about it. They've accepted it, and they're fighting it. They're fighting it as a family, but they're not wallowing in this self-pity. They're not letting it drag them down. They're still smiling, and they're still hurting. 100%, they're hurting, and they're recognizing that, and they have bad days, and of course. But you look at them and you're so inspired by, like, man, look at what they're able to do. Look at what they are able to do in this awful situation. I don't know how they do it. I would never be able to do that, but that's not true. You can. It is a decision that you make. And if you don't make that decision and you let these things happen to you, that is still a decision in its own way. You have just chosen not to make the right one. And you've chosen to just go ahead and let this thing happen to me and let life happen to me. But don't do that. Choose the opposite. Take the power, take control, and you'll be able to do amazing things in life. And again, I think if you really grasp that concept, moving forward, you'll really be surprised at how much you can get done and how competent you can become, and just, it's really amazing. It's really, really powerful, and it takes getting this lesson early on in life, I think, is just a beautiful thing. I really didn't grasp and internalize this lesson until I was way into being an adult, and I think I would have done things differently. I would have definitely done things differently in my life. I would have taken responsibility for more things, and my life would have been honestly a little bit easier and a lot happier. And so hopefully you can internalize this. Hopefully this has all made sense. And I haven't rambled too much here. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments. We'll end here with just thanks for listening. Thanks for hearing me out. I think this is important. I think this is really one of the most important concepts growing up as a young man and an adult in general that you need to try to grasp. So lastly, one thing I'll end with, one of my big tenets of leadership is being intentional, and so it's something I want to make sure I mention probably in every video. Nothing happens in life without you being intentional. And being intentional means you're making it happen, right? So you are not going to take personal responsibility unless you make it happen. And there's so many things like that in life, right? Developing relationships and having good friends and being a good person, taking personal responsibility. None of those things are going to happen on their own unless you are intentional in what you do. So you need to understand what's important to you, and you need to understand what you need to be doing to grow as a person and to develop. And so one of these things, like we've talked about, personal responsibility. So you need to be intentional about taking responsibility for your life and how you act and your emotions and your reactions, no matter what happens to you. Take responsibility. Something happens, and if it's due to your action, you're obviously responsible. If it's not due to your action, though, you're still responsible. not for the individual thing, but you are responsible moving forward. So I hope you've grasped that concept. Please like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends. We're already working on the next video, so hopefully it'll be up. It'll be up within a week. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it.
Okay, stop.